latest figures suggest that your party is down to 14%
Don't give
popularity.
Don't give us any wrong information getting from the poll. Our poll still, you can see.
This is from the respected NCCU poll, Mr. Chu.
You can see recently the poll, our party compared to DPP, our poll is still rising. Second one, I want to tell you the coming election. The election is the best poll.
And
am I right?
Will you be standing, Mr. Chu?
Yeah,
will you be standing for president?
No, I want to tell you the poll is the best poll for the coming election. You can see. You can see.
Are you referring to the local elections?
Our party will win the election.
The local elections, are you referring to?
Thank you so very much, Richard. And thank you for your interview. And it's timing up. It's up.
So do you believe that by not pursuing dialogue, is the DPP putting Taiwan in a dangerous situation, increasing the chance of a Chinese invasion?
I should say, I'm a Taiwanese. I support our government to defend Taiwan, but we strongly encourage our government also to create any channel of dialogue, any channel of any possibility to avoid the accident or avoid the crisis of war. We don't want to copy any trouble or any war before. Just like whatever happened, you see, in Europe, Ukraine. We strongly support the people of Ukraine to defend their country. But I think Taiwan can learn from the Ukraine war if we can maintain the channel of dialogue between Taiwan and China or Beijing and Washington. I think the risk could be reduced.
Do you really believe, to draw on the comparison with Ukraine, that more dialogue could have prevented this war? There was dialogue going up into the very last minute before the war broke out. I think many in Europe would draw the conclusion from the Ukraine war that when you have a dictator such as Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping who wants to achieve something, they are prepared to go to war.
But at least today, any kind of dialogue between two sides can still reduce the possibility or the chance of war. I know nobody like autocracy or dictatorship. I am a Taiwanese people or democracy party. We believe democracy is number one totally. But if no dialogue, Richard, you think is the best way or to face those dictatorships?
But Mr. Chu, what do you want to achieve with dialogue with China? Because it's not the core problem that it seems is insoluble through dialogue, that you have two completely opposite viewpoints on either side of the Taiwan Strait. You have Xi Jinping in China insisting that he desires reunification, as he puts it, with Taiwan, and refusing to rule out the use of force, making it very clear that he is willing to use force. And then you have the simple fact that in democratic Taiwan, only a small majority of people, under 7%, according to the latest NCCU polling, want to move towards unification. How do you bridge this gap? Through dialogue?
Richard, don't forget, the majority of Taiwanese people is to maintain status quo.
That's true, but Xi Jinping doesn't want.
Let me finish.
Xi Jinping doesn't want the status quo.
KMT's position is to maintain status quo. Clearly.
And you've, for instance, talked recently about the 1992 consensus between the KMT and China, which does seem to be unraveling. You've said yourself that it's a kind of a non-consensus consensus. But the Chinese side immediately came out and called what you said a willful distortion and told you to keep a clear head and stay on the right side of history, I mean, this sounded like the Chinese side sort of lecturing and bullying you about something that you had said. Isn't this the kind of, this is what the future holds if you ever get a chance to engage in diplomacy with them?
I should say this one. We should back to what happened for those meetings in 1992 or 1993. You can see what happened between two sides with some agreement, some disagreement. Those disagreement, which means we put those disagree aside, pursue the common. That's a speech spiritual of the conclusion or the consensus of 1992's meeting. So 1992 consensus is just like we said is created or constructive ambiguity between two sides. We pursue the common. If you pursue the common, we can keep going. But put those disagreement or those conflict aside. That's a certain kind of wisdom. That's a conclusion for 1992. So after 1992 until today, 3 decades, you can see if you want to insist the differences between two sides, then you can do nothing. But if you pursue the common, just like whatever we did when KMT was in power, we can make contact to each other. We can sign those agreements between Beijing and Taipei. We can do the trading issue, the airline, tourist,
but
the exchange of those, everything.
Mr. Chu, are we seeing with the Chinese response with this calling you, saying that you were willfully distorting it?
If everything follow Beijing said, that's just like not 1992's consensus. We have different interpretation. We have different definition. That's fact. That's true. But we pursue the common and put the conflicts aside.
So the latest figures suggest that your party is down to 14%
Don't give us any wrong information getting from the poll. Our poll still, you can see.
This is from the respected NCCU poll, Mr. Chu.
You can see recently the poll, our party compared to DPP, our poll is still rising. Second one, I want to tell you the coming election. The election is the best poll.
And
am I right?
Will you be standing, Mr. Chu?
Yeah,
will you be standing for president?
No, I want to tell you the poll is the best poll for the coming election. You can see.
Are you referring to the local elections?
Our party will win the election.
The local elections, are you referring to?
Thank you so very much, Richard. And thank you for your interview. And its time is up. Thank you.